Hello everyone, welcome back to another Apex hero build video. And in today's video, we're going to be covering Azusa, which is the partner of overall in both the new hero release banner and also in the story as well. So for this hero, I think she's the embodiment of, be water, my friend, as suggested in the title.
Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend.
And basically, she's a pretty straightforward hero, and she does both physical and magic attacks. So, as covered in her talent. So, you can see here, attack increased by 50% up to 20% and replaces in with 1 times of attack. So although she can do both physical and magic attacks, you only need to build attack on her. And then at the start of battle, gains twin elemental protection, mobility +3, before being forced into battle if the enemy's attack is lower than their int. Then this attack by the enemy deals physical damage, otherwise it deals magic damage, which is similar to the way they phrase things like Akaya and Sonya's 3C. So what this basically means, if they're doing physical damage, their attack tends to be higher, and then when you have this talent, they will be forced to attack with their int stat, and vice versa. If their int is higher, like a mage, they're doing magic attack, then they will be converted into attack. So this is basically some type of pseudo revive. So you can think of it something like Himiko, but also not really as well, because this only converts the stats of the hero and not the troops, so you'll be taking full troop damage. So if their troops are powerful enough, you can actually still die from this weakened attack. And then this effect is lost upon being attacked once. So yeah, you get hit by one attack, then it's gone. And then when the hero enters battle using a physical skill, they gain hard. And when entering battle using a magical skill, so magic damage attack, they gain soft. So I looked at Wiki Greaser and their translation says firm and flexible, I think, which is a much better translation of this. I don't know why Zilong cannot put in the effort and they translate it as hard and soft, which is such a butchered version. I hate it. And after taking action, if the hero has both hard and soft, like, come on guys, hard and soft, then both are consumed and the hero restores 80% of HP and gains twin elemental protection, which is her talent. So, after it gets consumed, you can get, once you attack with a physical and a magic attack once, then when you enter, you will heal and then you will get the talent back. And this hard, soft, and twin elemental protection ignores immunity and cannot be dispelled. So even if you have unbuffable, you can still gain these buffs. So to her skills, the skills that you see here are basically going to be her main kit, like 99% of the time. So normally I skip through the normal skills, but since we're bringing Faith as part of a kit, I'll just explain why. And it's basically because 15% damage dealt is a pretty hex buff for a 1-cost skill. Passive, actually, it's not even a buff. You don't need to use it or anything. So, and it also makes her like a semi-off healer. Like, she can give some sustain to her allies when she attacks. And also something I would like to raise here is that Azusa is the only hero in the game that has RAM but doesn't have some sort of a rider class. The whole RAM, hard and soft. I'm just saying. Then, okay, so the other one, okay, this is not a 1-cost skill anymore, but Discipline is actually a pretty good skill, which is a magic damage, 1 cooldown, deals 1.5 times damage, and you restore your own HP equals to 20% of damage dealt. So it's a very good built-in self-sustained skill into an attack. But if you look at her 2C skill, which is, they call it Soul Calling Strike here. So basically you choose one skill to use, hard and soft again. And then it's basically, it deals physical or magical damage 1.5 times, and then you lower their defense or magic defense by 20% accordingly. and this debuff lasts 1 turn, and this skill has a cooldown of 1 turn as well. So it also has a very short cooldown, but it does a debuff, and then it doesn't have the self-sustain of Discipline. So usually you will bring the Soul-Calling Strike because of how her talent works. You want to be able to do both physical and magical attacks. So if you bring Discipline, you're kind of forced to do the physical attack with her 3C, which we will cover in a bit, so that you can do both. And then as for her other 1-cost skill, the Qigong Wave. So 1 cost, attacks a single enemy dealing 1.4 times damage. It's a magic damage attack. And then all soldier physical damage dealt is considered as magic damage. Which is not a bad skill other than the fact that it's melee. But since her other skills are already relatively low cooldown, there's usually no need to bring a third attack, and it's better to bring Faith to soup up her other attacks. So other than that, her 3C, similar to her 2C skill, so it's a hard and soft again, 1.7 times damage. Similarly, you can choose between physical and magic damage, and this also converts the soldier physical damage to magic damage as well. So one thing to note about these skills is that they don't convert. I don't need to raise this point because she doesn't actually have magic damage troops. But yeah, if she had magic damage troops, they don't convert them into physical damage when you use the physical skill. So yeah, it's just a bit of extra info, I guess. And then for a 3C skill, when using the aforementioned skills, 3 enemy buffs are converted into random debuff before battle. So these are like the shit kind of debuffs, the stat debuffs, or damage increase decrease debuffs. So you can't get shit like heal block unbuffable from this. And then after dealing damage during battle, HP is restored equal to 30% of the damage dealt, so a bit of self-sustain here. And the enemy is rendered unable to guard for 2 turns, so it's a debuff similar to the smash skill, which means that it's not blocked by mobility down immunity, so it goes through. Then when equipped with melee soldiers, the soldiers will attack 2 because it's a 2-range skill, which it doesn't say here. And then if the enemy is eliminated, then the cooldown on Spirit Sex Secret, which is also a horrible name by the way, is reduced by 3. So this skill has a 4 cooldown, so if you kill an enemy, reduced by 3, so it will be 1 cooldown. So, and then Soul-Calling Strike already has a default 1 turn cooldown, so if you kill with 3C, she basically gets a skill every turn, she just goes between the 2. So that's pretty good, I would say. And then, okay, that's it for the skills. So moving on to her class. So which class to go for? So she has Ancestral Chief and Revered Exorcist. This is what I took from Ikigrisa, but the names in the C client is different from this. So Ancestral Chief, which is the one with higher attack, is the left class, and the Exorcist class is the one on the right with lower attack but more HP. So as you can see, in the top part of the my hero page, you can see that I went with the Exorcist class. And this is because that even though it has slightly lower attack, around 28 lower base attack, she gets I consider it a better Heartborn on the attacking passive thingy. So which basically says that when entering battle, if your HP is higher than their HP, you will get a 10% damage increase bonus, which usually you will get that effect because she tends to use Twilight Star, because she's an attack plus in hero, which means that her Twilight Star will actually deal quite a bit of damage compared to other Twilight Star users. And then for her class mastery, I went with defense and defensive stones because I don't feel like she needs the crit, and being a holy hero, I want her to be slightly more tanky against Judge Talisman AoE units like Ares, Himiko, that sort of thing. She probably still won't enjoy being hit by those, but it may or may not help her survive. So it can help you survive with a sliver of HP, then you can heal her back with something, and that sort of stuff. She, being a holy hero, she's not very likely to crit anyway. She's probably just functioning off her base crit rate, so not much point in putting skill here. And as for her soldiers, she has a pretty decent troop selection. Between that, we will be looking at Monks, Zealots, Heaven's Guard, and State Guard. So the one with most damage will be Heaven's Guard, because they do up to 45% bonus soldier attack for each block moved before battle, and usually she will move more than 3 blocks, so you will get the maximum effect from this, on top of the cavalry attacks and the higher base attack. And the only problem with Heaven's Guard is terrain. So in some maps, like let's say Gemini Bridge or desert map, you might want to not bring Heaven's Guard so that she can reach the enemy easier, because her mobility already isn't great. Like her base threat range is 8, just not bad, but not exactly great either. So if you're impacted by terrain when you bring Heaven's Guard, you have to take that into consideration. And for State Guards is one of the better attacking troops that she has. Soldier increase attack by 30%, and when initiating battle, soldiers ignore 15% of the enemy defense. I didn't test this, so I'm unsure if it works on when she uses magic attack, but if it works like Crystal Stinger, it should work on the opposite stat as well. And then when being forced into battle, soldiers deal a 6% increased damage for every 1 block they move before attacking, up to 30%. So not a lot of heroes will melee attack Azusa, but she does have that pseudo revive talent, and she can do quite a bit of counter to them with this troop. And okay, so Heaven's Guard, State Guard, and we're on to the holy units. So Zealots and Monks have similar base attack, but Zealots have higher stat increases, provided you can satisfy their condition, which is the soldier HP needs to be above 80%, and you need to have active buffs, so 3 buffs, so that you can get the full 45%. If you are not confident in maintaining this condition, then you will go for Monks, which is not affected by melee damage penalty when attacked, so only when attacked. If you're attacking, she actually does have melee penalty. But if you're using skill, that doesn't matter, because they actually include it in her skills that her skills are not affected by melee damage penalty. So if you're using skills, it's fine, but you need to watch out for normal attacks. And then healing effects are increased by 15%, soldier defense increased by 20%, 25%. Increases soldier attack by 30% when hero's class is holy, which she is in both classes. And the monks are slightly more bulkier than zealots, I would say. But yeah, just be careful about the melee penalty thing. So overall, I think I find myself most commonly bringing State Guards. Zealots is kind of nice, but if you take an attack and then you're below 80%, because like I mentioned, her talent doesn't actually block troop damage. So if you get hit before you actually do your 3C attack, you will generally be lower than 80%, assuming you don't have a healer, which means that the other troops will be more consistent. So I would say Heaven's Guard for maximum damage, but be careful of terrain. State Guards will be the most consistent, and then fighting monks if you don't want to play troop disadvantage games. Now for her equipment, this is what I came up with for her best in slot and her alternatives. So weapon is a pretty highly debatable one, so between the Mimir Hammer and Bone Crusher. I think most people suggest Bone Crusher. It's a new weapon that disables the enemy's armor effect before entering battle. So it works against things like Last Rites, the forbidden armor from the tanks, or if you're hitting like a mage or a healer, it can disable their Tenure Rope as well, so you don't get a random debuff and a random dispel. So the problem I find with the Bone Crusher Hammer is that it's pretty useless against Rosen or immunity, assuming you don't dispel it with your 3C. So that's one of the main things to note. And because I find myself sometimes I don't like to ban Rosen, so this pushes down the Bone Crusher Hammer for a little bit for me. But I do have to say that this is actually something I just realized when I'm making this video. Because of the fact that her 3C actually does 3 random debuffs, on top of the fact that she has an unable to guard debuff, combined with the Bone Hammer, it's actually 5 debuffs in a single attack with a 3C, which can be troublesome for CC White in particular to dispel, because she can only dispel 2 debuffs per turn unless she brings Forest Priest, which I've actually never seen before. You usually don't have the luxury to do that. Which means that, going like similarly to the idea of the Wedam that I mentioned in my last meta recap video, you can use it to disable the tanks, and it's very RNG whether they can dispel the correct debuff or not, which is the unable to guard debuff. So that's a +1 for the argument of using Bone Crusher Hammer. And as for the Mimir Hammer, I think this weapon has been largely forgotten by everyone ever since Yusuke kind of disappeared off meta. But it's a really good self-sustained weapon in a meta game that favors trading a lot. And it also gives her damage increase when she gets the buff. So Dispel 1 heals 20% HP, and she gets a buff that it's basically a King's Crown buff, but it stacks with generic damage increase buffs. And I find that, since I made this video a bit later than I usually do, so I got a little bit of a chance to play around with her, and I find that she's actually a pretty decent late game unit. And if your late game doesn't happen to have some kind of healer, the Mimir Hammer actually helps a lot as things die rapidly on the map. You're basically able to keep yourself in tip-top shape, and the damage increase really helps her to secure kills because she doesn't have that much built-in damage increase. Her talent only gives attack, and then she does have faith, but usually the things that make or break kills is the damage increase and not the attack. So that also ties into the previous point of why I've run mine in the class that has lower attack but has a damage increase hardbond. So yeah, so that's, you can consider for yourself which weapon you want to use. As for the armor, I will go with Nebulous Robe because of reflect bullshit. Drop near Warlock Kruger, mages in general, or Taunts, Crystal Molder from Hilda. That Nebulous will ensure that you don't die to reflect alone, because it's annoying. Like, you trade 1 for 1 and then you don't even kill that unit sometimes. If you don't want to use Nebulous Robe, you could go with Tenues to, you have a built-in revive, but when they hit you, I think the effect still procs, you can dispel their buff. And then there's also Forbidden's Defender armor because she can use heavy gear. But I think Forbidden is kind of whatever, because if you don't have your talent, she's actually not that tanky, so I don't think it will help her that much in terms of survivability. And as for helmet, I would use Fury of Tyr. So even though just now I mentioned that late game if she keeps attacking because she has low cooldown skills, which means that Tyr is actually not particularly effective in that scenario. But the thing is, Azusa with her solo revive tends to be positioned like much more forward than her teammates. You can try to bait out an attack from your opponent, and then because of that, she's not very likely to be near her allies, which means that Tenure Headdress is not that effective as well. So at least the Fury of Tyr can help boost her initial attack. So if you don't want any of those, any generic helmet would do, because she can wear heavy helmet similarly to the armor. And then for her accessory, she'll be using Twilight Star. With her attack to in conversion, your Twilight Star actually deals a decent chunk of damage. It's still not comparable to Ragnarok, but it's like enough. It's like, I think maybe like 8% of their HP usually, which is much more than most Twilight users that only deal probably like less than 5%. So if you don't run Twilight, you could use any generic attack accessory. I put Prisoners here because she is quite likely to be attacking into tanks. So, the Cavalry is the one that will be most useful for that. And there's also a possibility of running the Bloodthirsty Nail, which is a new accessory that gives silence immunity for attack characters. So that's also nice, but that assumes that you're gonna get hit by AoE, which I don't really like that idea. And as for Enchant, you will go Breeze. There's no real other argument. She really needs that extra mobility. And I don't think she needs Meteor for damage increase. She doesn't need Clock because her skills are low cooldown. And Full Moon is just kind of whatever for this kind of character. Okay, so for the demo section of this video, there's a few things that I want to demonstrate actually. So first thing, gonna strengthen Azusa. In particular for Zealot troops. So you can see here her attack is 1.1 and plus 400 in 0-1. So this is with the strengthen buff. Then when I move this unit next to her, she gets the defense support L. You can see that the attack went up slightly, so went up by 4 base and like 30 attack. So what this basically means is that her talent does not count towards the zealot buffs. So when she gets more buffs, her attack increases ever so slightly. So yeah, it's basically something that I want to mention. So as you can see here, her skills, you can basically choose. The blue color one is the one that is the magic damage, the soft. The golden color one is the hard for both of her skills, 3C and 2C. So I'm actually just gonna enter here. Move the rest of these guys. And I'm gonna let the Leon attack me. So as you can see with the talent, she's doing int damage, 900 int, but she still took quite a bit of damage because the troops are doing full damage. And this is one of the things that you need to be careful with Azusa, is that once you lose your talent, your mobility actually gets kind of fucked, because, well, now it's a +2 -2. So yeah, normally she has the +3 from her talent, so she can move 6, but if you get hit by any sort of poke, like, you know, Cherry hit and run, Lucretia hit and run as well, Kyura, that kind of unit, she won't be able to get her talent back until she does 2 attacks. So if you lose your talent, hopefully you lose it near the enemy team so that you can immediately start attacking and get your talent back. Because otherwise it's very easy to just hit her twice actually with low commit skills. So, and unlike Himiko, she doesn't get it back over time. So Himiko, her cooldown eventually resets, but for Azusa, she needs to, you know, do 2 attacks, 1 physical and 1 magic, to get her talent back. And by the time you do those 2 attacks, you probably don't need the mobility as well. So that's an annoying part of her talent, I would say. And with that, we've reached the end of this video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.